This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a single software platform that enables your trainers to deliver consistent, high-quality workouts, track client progress, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to poor client experiences, inaccurate tracking, and prevents you from growing your business, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal understand your challenge and have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. You can integrate with MindBody, manage a standardized exercise and workout library for your team, track workouts effectively, and produce client reports at the click of a button. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, Medx Precision Fitness, and more. Starting with Strength Portal is super simple. Number 1, sign up for the best package for your business. Number 2, let Strength Portal take the load off and help onboard your business onto the platform. And number 3, start delivering consistent workout experiences and scale your business to the next level. To help support the podcast, please go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business and sign up now so you can stop feeling frustrated about your business and start to scale your business to its true potential. Go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business. Lawrence Neal here. Welcome back to High Intensity Business, a podcast where we discuss high intensity strength training and provide you with the tools, the tactics, and the strategies to help you grow your strength training business. You can get free resources to help grow your business, including sales presentations, PDFs on how to get clients and attract great trainers, financial forecasting and cash flow templates, and many more transcripts and resources, all free, over at highintensitybusiness.com/free. So again, that's highintensitybusiness.com/free. Just put your email in, the opt-in, and you'll get access to all of those resources. This is episode 387 and part 13 of the High Intensity Strength Training Fundamentals series. And in this part, we're going to focus again on the ideal exercise environment part 2 for the most part, and we'll see how far we get and whether we've got time to cover anything else. Today's guest again is Tim Ryan. Tim is a master superstar instructor and owner of Strong Life Personal Training in Barrington, Illinois. You can contact Tim to learn all about his other services to studio owners and personal trainers in terms of workshops, mentoring, and seminars to help you with your business, help your personal trainers with their skill set, modifying machines, and ultimately just help you improve your business by going to his website, stronglifetraining.com, or emailing Tim direct to info@stronglifetraining.com. Tim, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Lawrence. Good to see you again and talk to you.
Good to be with you as always. So we covered the ideal environment quite well in the previous part of this series, but there are a few things we left out. And, I've been very bullish in saying to you, we need to be really thorough because this is something that really isn't covered on the internet that much in terms of certainly an audio resource as far as I'm aware. So we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. And if those listening to this really want the full overview and review of what is an ideal exercise environment and what are some of those attributes, then please listen to the episode before this, which is part 12, and you can find that over on highintensitybusiness.com. And I'll also link it in the show notes to this one, 387. So what we're going to just cover, just to complete it really, is to talk about some of the other aspects maybe we didn't talk about. So the first one is mirrors, right? So most gyms have mirrors, and I would be lying, Tim, if I didn't tell you that when I used to work out in public gyms before I got my own studio, I would definitely be guilty of flexing my small muscles in front of the mirror sometimes. But one of the things we all share is we all have those clients who love the fact that there isn't mirrors in most of our studios, and they don't have to feel self-conscious or intimidated by that fact. And that's one of the strong appeals of a strength training studio, isn't it? For the most part. So what do you think about mirrors? You got anything else to say on that really, in terms of that being a distraction?
Yeah, I've got a few comments there. And, one thing we need to kind of keep in perspective when we're talking about this whole ideal exercise environment is the concept basically that what we're trying to do with the environment is create an environment where there are no obstacles, there's no impediments, there's no distractions, there's nothing that would detract from your ability to get the absolute most out of your workout. Okay. So all the things that we talk about in this regard to the ideal environment is really kind of just creating that situation where you can optimize as many of the details as possible and eliminate things that are going to detract or impede you from really getting the best quality workout. And not only that, but having the best quality situation for your trainers, your instructors to work with the clients, provide them instruction, coaching, everything in that regard, and to make the client feel comfortable. So with those kind of things in mind, when we get to the subject of mirrors, obviously most health clubs, gyms, fitness centers, whatnot, sure, in the commercial market, they have mirrors, okay? But usually, for the most part, those mirrors are going to be in the sort of the free weight area with the barbells and the dumbbells and things like that. I mean, most of the areas where you have the strength training machines, or even, gyms that have it, like treadmills and stair climbers and things like that, you're not going to typically see the mirrors in that section of the gym, but more over to the free weight section. With the idea is that, when you're doing free weight exercises, there's, various different things that people, want to watch and see themselves perform and things like that. But in our situation, the idea of mirrors, I would say overall, they're a bad idea. Okay. On the one hand, people may say, well, people need to be able to see their form and, ensure that you're performing the exercise correctly in something of that regard. The problem, again, when you're dealing with machines is that you're not going to have a situation where all the machines are in front of a mirror. I mean, I suppose you could organize your gym where you could have mirrors down the entire wall and you could face the machines into the mirror and, all that kind of stuff. But here's the problems with this concept, is that the mirrors create a distraction, okay? And mirrors create a situation where, say you have the machine facing the mirror and you're right on. Well, a couple things come up. Number one of the ideas of proper form or technique is to keep your head and neck positioned in a neutral position, okay? Not be turning your head, not be twisting, not be having your head up when your body is somewhat, forward or down, to kind of maintain that neutral relationship with your head and neck, and maintaining roughly a fist distance from your chin to your chest kind of relationship. So one of the things that arises immediately is that in a lot of cases, if you're looking at the mirror, you're probably not keeping your head and neck positioned in the proper position for most exercises. Okay, so you start to violate that principle. But also, when you're looking into a mirror, that reflects and shows everything that's behind you. Okay, so imagine a situation where you've got several trainers working with clients in the room. You're looking in the mirror trying to perform your exercise, and you're seeing everything that's going on in the room behind you. If a trainer and a client walks behind you, you're seeing that motion and that activity. If another client is on a machine behind you and with their trainer, you're seeing that activity behind you. So what that's doing is it's causing the client to be distracted, and their mind's going to wander, their vision is going to wander, and they're going to be watching what's going on behind them in the room with all the other clients and trainers. Okay. So essentially, this is just creating a big distraction. Okay. so I would say in that regard, mirrors are probably not a good idea. And even the notion that somebody is going to, observe their form and technique. Okay, maybe there's a couple exercises, a couple machines where that could be helpful, but I would say overall, with the negative aspects of what I just mentioned regarding mirrors, it's probably overall a bad idea and leads to a distraction. Okay.
Yeah, like it.
Um,
I agree with what you're saying. It's probably a net negative, and
yeah.
if you've got well designed machines, I don't think it's necessary anyway. But I agree with you. If you're doing free weight exercises, it can be very useful for form
Yeah.
correction, right? And if I'm exercising from home, because I don't have mirrors in the studio, obviously, but if I'm exercising at home and I'm doing free weights, I'll always plant myself in front of my reflection just so I can see.
Mhm.
Just maybe it reassures me if nothing else. But I still agree it's probably a net negative. And I guess
Yeah.
if you're using free weights in your studio, and we're obviously going to go on to equipment, then that's why it's so important to have the trainer being responsible for correcting the form.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the purpose of the trainer, is to be observing the client's form. Well, one of the purposes is observing the client's form and technique, making those corrections, giving instruction, and so forth. So, I think just again overall, it's going to be more important that the client be properly positioned, head and neck proper position, and really concentrating on their performance and not being potentially distracted from what they're seeing in the mirror and what's going on in the room that they're seeing through the mirror, and so forth. So, yeah, I think it's a net negative, even if you could come up with a couple reasons where a mirror would be helpful. I think overall it's bad, particularly in situations where you've got multiple trainers and clients within the room, and it's just going to be too much going on and
Totally.
causing the client to be distracted. Now, another aspect of this is what you hinted in your introduction is, clients. Many clients, particularly clients that are not real good physical condition or maybe overweight or over fat, do have some sort of self-consciousness, and they feel comfortable in our facilities because they're not these flashy commercial type gyms that are health clubs and so forth that they're familiar with, and that perhaps they feel more comfortable because there's not mirrors and giving their body image, a challenge and things like that. And they do feel comfortable not being in that environment, and the fact that it is more private, it is more focused, and that, people are not observing them and judging them, and, that kind of thing. So I think mirrors could be a potential problem for some of our clients that don't have, a real secure body image, at times. So that's another consideration to think about.
Yeah, it's yeah, you're right. It's obviously the focus here is on trying to optimize a training experience, and this certainly does that. If a client's feeling less self-conscious, they can really focus more on their objective.
Yeah.
But it's I guess a powerful, unique selling point as well. It's a differentiator. We get it quite a lot with regard to studio and virtual. People say, I like the fact that it's a safe space. It's somewhere I can feel comfortable. I'm not going to feel self-conscious looking at myself in mirrors all around me. And I can exert a lot of effort. And, there might be some other people in the studio, but it is a small group at the most. It's not some busy gym environment. So yeah, I think those are some really good points.
And even one of the aspects that we could probably talk about with regard to ideal environment is the placement and positioning of equipment within your room. And one of the aspects of that, and this pertains to the mirror situation that I mentioned, is that when you're have a machine facing a mirror and you're looking into the mirror, you're seeing everything behind you. that would be kind of the same situation that you would have if you have the machine facing out into the room, not facing a wall, and instead facing out into the room. That's giving the potential for the client to watch everything that's going on in the room, and seeing other clients working out, seeing other trainers, seeing people walk around the room. And it's just another reason for them to be distracted and for their head to be turning and for them to be watching other things and not paying attention to themselves and what they're doing. So this is a tricky situation because on the one hand, it perhaps would be ideal to have machines facing a blank wall, so that you could not see anything else that's going on, and you've got nothing to do except concentrate on your own performance. And I think this is a good idea, but it does introduce a couple issues. Is that, number one, you're never going to probably have a situation, depending on the dimensions of your room and the size and the layout and everything, you're probably not going to have a situation where every single machine can be facing a wall. Okay. Just because you're going to have so many different machines, and you've got to have room to fit all the different machines. And you're going to have a situation where some machines are out in the middle of the room or something, and they're not facing a wall.
Also, it just wouldn't look that great either. That's another issue, right? Is that what you're going to come on to? Sorry, they're all facing away. It looks a bit weird. We did that with the leg press accidentally, but that was a great thing, I think, because leg press is particularly hard, and of all exercises, in my opinion, it probably requires the most focus, right, in order to really get to failure. The Med-X leg press, and ours is facing the wall. So as soon as you walk in, it's right in front of you, but it's facing the wall, so the user can't see anyone who's walking in, which is good from a focus point of view. But the downside is we haven't got enough space behind the plate. So if someone wanted to do an assisted rep or a negative and pull the plate away to help the client, they can't do that. So you have to do it from the other side with your foot. But we're talking about something completely different there. So that's obviously more about positioning than talking about ideal environment. Although it's related. But yes, so that's a good point. But yeah, continue.
Yeah. So one of the things is that when you're placing the machines and what sort of orientation they're in, some machines just automatically lend themselves well to the user being faced towards the wall. And the leg press is one of them, because with the leg press, you obviously get into the machine from the side of where the seat is. Okay. So if you had the leg press faced out into the room, then it makes it harder to get in the machine, because you have to essentially walk around the back by the wall, and then you've got that seat sticking out there, and the trainer's got to be able to get behind the seat to push the client into position and so forth. So just automatically the leg press works better with the user being faced towards the wall, because then the seat is out to the room and you've got maximum freedom to enter the machine and for the trainer to push the client in. So in that case, it works well. But when you think a lot of the other exercises, if you face them into the wall, it makes it harder to enter the machine, because you have to essentially walk around towards the wall, and you have to also position the machine several feet away from the wall to give yourself room to get into the exercise and so forth. So in those cases, it's kind of awkward to have it right up into the wall. So there's those different considerations. Another aspect is that you can create more space and you have more room for the machines if the back of the machine, so think of a Med-X machine, the back of the machine is that weight stack in the tower and so forth. So you can take a Med-X machine and put the back of the machine right up against the wall, with the machine facing out towards the room. And you've got maximum ability to push the machine all the way against the wall and create a lot of space. Whereas if you turn the machine around and face it towards the wall, you've got to have the machine maybe 3 feet away from the wall. So you're losing 3 feet of space, and you can't fit as much equipment in the room. Okay. So trying to balance this idea of ideally, face the client to the wall, so there's minimal distraction. But then you as you mentioned, number one, it perhaps doesn't look as good, aesthetic, and you also lose a lot of space because you have to position the machine several feet from the wall, and you make it maybe a little more difficult to get in. And
yeah, didn't you also say though that even if it's facing away from the wall, you'd still need to pull it away from the wall a bit in order to have enough space in there for the trainer to be able to move the seat back and forth for the client. So almost either way, there's going to be some space. But you're saying if it's facing the wall, it's going to be a greater gap away from the wall.
Yeah, there's going to be a greater gap. If it's facing the wall, there's going to be a greater gap. Mm-hmm. But think about this too, is that for the trainer to properly observe the client, you've got to get into positions where you can see different things. And sometimes you want to be more in front of the person to be able to observe their, shoulder position and some of the things they're doing. And when the machine's facing away from the wall, you've got the maximum ability to, as a trainer, move into any position that you need to be in to observe what they're doing, where when it's faced into the wall, you might just not be able to see different things because there's not enough room for you to get into position to see those things. Now, I do want to make one point here, and that is that generally, for the most part, as the trainer, you don't want to position yourself directly in front of the client, looking straight at them. Okay. You don't want to be directly in front of them, straight on, so to speak. You want to be a little bit off to the side. And again, just not create a distraction, not to create any awkwardness of, you staring at the client or the client staring at you. So even if you're needing to position yourself a little bit in front of the person, you should be a little bit off to the side at an angle so that you're not directly, making that eye contact.
That's such a good point. I've made that mistake and not even been aware of it recently, where I've had someone do a free weight and I'm like staring them right in the eyes, like directly in front. Right. It's definitely off-putting. You can see that.
Yeah.
I wonder how do you get around that? Let's say you're doing a sit-up and we don't currently have anything really suitable for anchoring the feet. So typically we'll hold the feet. And they might be using a weight on the chest to make it more challenging. And what we typically do is we do like a 2-up and then like a 4 or like a 6-second down, like an accentuated negative.
Yeah.
But where you're right there holding the feet, they're looking, they're coming up, you're looking them right in the eyes. Is it just a case of not looking them in the eyes? So they feel a little bit more comfortable so they can focus. So looking at their knees or their chest or their stomach, which is what I do sometimes. I'm just wondering, that's completely unrelated, but got me thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Because what I've done in that situation, there's two aspects there. One is the idea of looking them in the eye, but the other thing is that, especially when they come up, they're coming up close to you. And even with the breathing and everything, they're going to maybe blow air right in your face or something like that.
I'm fine with that.
It can be a little bit of a difficult, awkward situation. So what I've done in that situation is two things. One is, as much as possible, I try to get myself a little bit off to the side, and maybe I'll just reach from the side and try to hold their feet down. But then also, when they're coming up to that up position where they're going to be real close to me, I'll turn my head away maybe for a moment, just to reduce some of that awkwardness or something. So I think in that exercise, it is difficult, but as much as possible, if you could try to position yourself a little bit off to the side and be able to hold their legs without being directly in front of them, and try to create a little distance between you and the client so that you're not creating that awkwardness and you're not, getting
crowding the space.
Perhaps, spit.
That as well. Yeah.
So at any rate, I think, since we're on the subject of equipment layout in the room, I mean, that would be part of the ideal environment. I think sort of maximum aesthetics, maximum ability to observe the client, and maximum ability to, get into and out of machines and things. It's probably better that the machines are faced out into the room, particularly with Med-X, where the weight stack is, against the wall, and they're looking out into the room. The only downside is, yeah, you are having a situation where the client is then looking out into the room and can potentially observe other activity that's going on. Some of this can be mitigated by how you're instructing them, reminding them to keep their head and neck. If you see a client looking around the room watching another client or another trainer, there's a correction to be made there. Maintain neutral head and neck, look straight ahead, whatever. Even directly, don't pay attention to other people, concentrate on yourself here, and that kind of stuff. Sometimes, I think I might have mentioned this last time, but sometimes, particularly if you have another trainer and client on a machine very close by, I'll position myself in between so that the client that I'm working with can't watch or feel, that their space is invaded by those other trainers and clients, So, ideally, if we want it to be the absolute best environment, we would not allow any other trainers or clients in the room. It would be one trainer and one client in the room, and that's it. And you'd have a completely, pristine environment where there's nothing else in the room going on. But let's face it, we got to run a business, and
we got to make money, Tim.
Yeah, we have to make money, and you're typically not going to have a situation where you could have a sufficient volume of business when you're just limiting it to one trainer and one client. I know some people have that, where some people have a gym in their home where they see clients, or they have some real private situation where it's just a one-man business or one-woman business or whatever, where it's just one-on-one. And I guess if your expenses are low enough and you've got a situation where you can personally make enough income to support yourself, and that's what you want to do, that's great. But if you're out in a commercial environment and you're renting space and you've got rent and utilities and expenses, it's going to be pretty tough to be profitable if you're just one trainer and one client. You're going to be limiting yourself. So we're going to have that situation where there's going to be multiple trainers and clients within the room. So
if I can just comment on that quickly, in all seriousness, I made a joke there, but if your core values conflict with having, multiple trainers, multiple clients going at once, then I get that. But as Paul, you just said, Tim, it's like, well, you are putting a real ceiling on your revenue, and then it can be difficult to make the business really work and make it really profitable. And then you've got less levers to pull, right? Because it comes down to, well, that's really limited your capacity. You can only see so many clients per day. Therefore, you really need to have your prices in the right place. You need to be priced appropriately so that you can achieve your financial goals that you set for your business. So just wanted to.
It depends what your goals are. I know people that are just really sort of a one person business, and it's only them, and they, maybe they're in a situation where they can charge a real high premium, and they're personally able to make enough income to satisfy themselves and to cover their.
To be
expenses.
fair, Doug Holland does that very well. I'd say he's the poster boy for this, right? He does something like 120, 130 sessions a week. And he definitely is an outlier in that respect. And he, I believe, just does one-on-one. He won't have other people in the studio. I think he's got a pretty clear rules on, like, when this door is closed, you cannot come in here. He's created such a fascinating, hard-nosed culture in that place where it's like borderline rude, but I bet his clients love it and respect it, that's one example of actually, doing it that way.
Yeah, it can definitely be done. And, Doug is very successful. He loves what he does, and he makes a good living. And like you say, he does 120 sessions or whatever he's at. So it can work. Okay. But, then also contrast that with what like Luke is doing, and, running these, grossing $1 million or more out of a studio. You're not going to do that kind of business with just one trainer and one client, So
correct.
There is some trade-offs, and, I guess it's up to the individual to decide what type of business they want to have and where they want their, ceiling to be or whatever. But, for the most part, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have more than one trainer in the room at a time.
This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a software platform that enables you to track workouts, deliver consistent high-quality client experiences, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to inconsistent workout experiences and stifles your business growth, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. To help support the podcast, go to strengthportal.com/high-intensity business and sign up for your ideal package now. That's strengthportal.com/high-intensity business. And now back to the episode. Great. So what else do we need to say with regard to equipment? Is there anything else there that we need to talk about?
Well, one thing that I was thinking about as we were talking about this equipment positioning, different machines and different brands of equipment and the way they're shaped and where the weight stack is and stuff like that. It may not always be that if you put the weight stack or the backside of the machine against the wall, that they're automatically have the client facing out to the room, because I can, with MedX a lot, obviously they're pretty standardized where you've got that back section that holds the weight stack and the tower. And, when you put the back of a MedX machine against the wall, almost always the subject is facing, directly opposite that or out to the room. But there's other brands of equipment where the weight stack is on the side. Okay. And, the subject is positioned parallel to the weight stack. So if you put the weight stack against the wall, then the client is positioned sideways, let's say, and now you may be looking at, the next client in the machine next to you. If you're all faced that way, then rather than looking out the room, you've got clients looking at each other or something. So you have to kind of consider exactly what the machine is, what the orientation of the machine, how it's shaped. And when you place the machine a certain way, which direction is the client facing in that situation? And you may run into a situation with various brands of equipment that you have to, position the machines in different ways in order to get the clients facing in the way that you want them facing to have, minimal distraction, but also thinking of these concepts of entry and exit to the machine and the trainer being able to observe the client, so it's not necessarily universal, depending on what equipment you have and how that layout and shape and so forth is. So,
it's you've got me thinking so much about our own layout because we've just ordered a bunch of stuff. We already have, let me think here, 2, 5, we already have about 10, 11 pieces, I think. Mostly MedX, pretty much all MedX. And now we've got a 4-way neck, a MedX leg extension, a MedX abdominal, and I think something else coming in the next few weeks. And I'm thinking about, and the funny thing is we've almost taken the attitude of, look, because we intend to expand beyond this studio, and this studio has always been the pilot, the sandbox, if you will, because we might open more locations, or hopefully will, and we may even franchise, who knows, one day, right? And so we're looking at trying to create that replicable model, and so we've almost been like really haphazard about machine placement. Like you'd walk into him and you just faint probably, like at the layout. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we have to make sure that when we get the new pieces in, that they're not facing other pieces whereby clients might be training and staring at each other, which we run that risk because we've not really thought about the layout much at all. We've just been putting the machines in. And also there's the issue of machines are not easy to move. And there's a chat we work with, really nice guy called Niall, who definitely is not going to be very happy when I tell him that we need to optimize this layout at some point, but we will have to do it. I think it's just trying to, eat the elephant one bit at a time, and it can be a little bit overwhelming trying to perfect this stuff from the outset, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But no, you've given me loads of food for thought. This is great.
Well, some of those machines that you mentioned, the Med-X 4-way neck, the abdominal, rotary torso, the, exercise low back, those machines are orientated a little bit different. The weight stack is on the side on those machines.
Yeah, we got that right with the lumbar. I'm so happy about that. That's facing the wall. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of the Med-X machines, the chest press, the lateral raise, the shoulder press, things like that, torso pull down, torso arm pull down, the weight stack's behind you and you put the weight stack against the wall and the seat's facing out to the room. But those other ones we just mentioned, the abdominal, the neck, et cetera, the weight stack is kind of on the side. So if you put the weight stack against the wall, the client would be facing, sideways or parallel to the wall, so a lot of times, in my facilities, you end up with those machines being sort of in the middle of the room with the other machines around the perimeter. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But the point we're making here is that give consideration to what's going on with where the client's going to be facing, where they're positioned, where the trainer needs to be to observe them properly, entry and exit to machines, allowing space for that, allowing space for, in some instances for the trainer to have to push them into the exercise and get them situated. And, there's these considerations to make and pay attention to so that you're optimizing that. And, another aspect is we do want the room and the presentation to look good and to look aesthetically pleasing and to look, welcoming to a person. Even think if somebody stops by to inquire and they're going to tour your facility and you're going to make a little presentation and a sales pitch to them, we are trying to make something that aesthetically pleasing and looks good and is welcoming and not intimidating and, different things. So there's these different considerations to make, but you're trying to balance those different aspects and also, ideally create an environment that's going to work well practically. Even thinking of traffic flow through the room. Again, if you've got multiple trainers and clients in the room, where are people going to be walking? Where are the pathways when you're going from one machine to the next, or if you have to walk across the room to another machine, where are the pathways? And if trainers and clients are walking through those pathways, are they going to be interfering with a client that's on a particular machine? Are they going to walk in too close a proximity or walk in front of them in such a way that could be distracting? So there's a lot of things to look at in terms of the layout in the room to balance these different factors and have a room that works from a practical standpoint, but also is aesthetically pleasing, maximizes the space, all these different aspects.
Love it. Thank you so much. That was like a checklist right there for everyone to use as a guide. It was really helpful. So should we move on to talking just about aesthetics in terms of things on the walls and other objects around? So, for example, let's talk about a bunch of these. So, I think it's quite common for some of our colleagues, and I quite like this, and you might not, Tim, to have like a full human-sized like physiology anatomy image of the human body, which can be helpful when trying to describe certain muscles that are used or whatever. Another type of aesthetic might be the proven process. So many of us have a big, we have this, a big, poster or whatever you want to call it on the wall to describe the journey the client goes on, right? So during the sales consultation, it can be really good to show them the type of plan we have in place to help them get results. And that can be like a nice flow chart and Discover Strength were probably the first to really do that in our space. And we've been inspired by that. although it's a concept from EOS. And I know that, for instance, Keys of Training they're very, I would say they very much embrace the ideal exercise environment better than most. They're very kind of almost, how do you say it? Patrick would kill me for getting this wrong. He's a COO of Keys, but I would say it's almost like a sterile, like hospital type interior. Maybe I'm not using the best words there, but they do have some pictures which they use to demonstrate the exercise to new people. So when they're doing their consultation, they've got these really simple drawings that demonstrate the way muscles recruit during the exercise and that kind of thing, and demonstrate things like recovery. But then that's it, right? There's like nothing else. It's just those are like over one side, and then the rest of the exercise floor is just, from what I remember, mostly blank walls and machines, basically. And then there's also, some people have quotes. So I think some of our colleagues have, some of our favorite Arthur Jones and Ken Hutchins and Doug McGuff quotes on the walls, right?
Yeah.
To remind clients like the difference between exercise and recreation. I know is one. I think Doug McGuff might have in his space. Not sure if that's in the actual training floor or just in the waiting area. So there's things like that. So what do you think about this stuff? Are you you shouldn't have anything on the walls? Do you think there's certain things where it's like they're okay and actually they add value to the client experience? What's your view on that?
Yeah, I would say overall, I wouldn't be completely, 100% against some of that stuff. And I definitely would agree that some of that stuff is helpful to make a presentation to somebody or to point out, various aspects, and they could be used effectively. I would probably overall want to give consideration to putting those things in an area that is least likely to, be in the exercise area where you're, going to potentially cause a problem or a distraction. So it depends kind of on the layout of your facility and, considering, okay, where's the lobby or the waiting area? Where's the entrance to the exercise area? And then the exercise area itself, how is it laid out? Are there different access to other areas of your facility that, branch off the exercise room and different things? And I would initially, if space allows and if the layout allows, I would like to have those types of things, whether it's an anatomy chart, whether it's a flow chart of what your process is. I would like to have those things somewhat out of the exercise area itself and maybe be, in a hallway leading to the exercise, or, in an area off the lobby or something like that, or at the very least in an area of the exercise room where it's, lends itself well to being least obtrusive, or, also considering that if you are using that flow chart or that anatomy chart or whatever it is, and you need to take a client over to that, okay, are you going to be in somebody's way to do that? Is that in a location where if you're over there with a client, you may be obstructing or being in too close proximity to another client that's on a machine exercising? So I think overall that stuff is helpful and could be used. I wouldn't rule it out that you shouldn't have that stuff, but I do think you have to pay attention and give consideration to how the layout of your facility is, where that equipment, or not equipment, but where that stuff is, and whether it's going to potentially be a distraction or an obstacle. In terms of these quotes and different things, I think you can put some stuff, on the wall, have maybe stuff up higher along the wall if it's some big slogan or something like that, to just give inspiration. In some aspects, I've seen people do some things, and I might have mentioned this in some of one of the other podcasts that we did, but I've know people that in front of certain machines, they put an inspirational thing, or they put something that they want to stress with somebody. Like, I know one guy in front of his leg press, he's got a little sign that says "easy doesn't work," or something to that regard, to kind of remind the client is that, in easy.
And you think
workout,
that's okay? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just one thing and it's just right in front of them. Or
I love this. I got to say to him, I love the idea of having a few really powerful quotes
yeah.
around, because I love, quotes and profound
Hmm.
principles and like that. They just help anchor really useful wisdom, right? So I'm starting to think I might put a couple of things up.
Yeah, so something like that. I know of some people that do things like they put just a little sign in front of the machine as a reminder, to say something like "keep breathing" or eyes, head straight, or some sort of reminder to just get the
Couple
client to
bullets.
focus on something they should be doing on that machine. So
Yeah.
it's not like some big thing where the client's reading it and being distracted, but just like one or two word thing to either give them increased focus on something they should be doing, or give them some sort of inspiration or reminder of something they should be doing. So I mean, that kind of stuff can be used, as long as you're giving due consideration to not having it create a distraction or something.
So anything else you want to say on that, or should we move on to attire as the other thing I wanted to touch on?
Yeah, that's probably all I need to say on that.
Cool. So again, there's a really good article written by Doug McGuff. I think it was a while ago now, and it's pretty old, and which I'll link to, which made me think about this aspect. But it's not something I really thought about before, which is you go into a gym now and there's lots of people wearing all sorts of clothing, and in particular, lots of women wearing very tight, clothing and scantily clad, which could be a big distraction for a lot of us males and some females. And whilst that is enjoyable to look at, it's probably not helping us to get great workouts in.
Yeah.
Although you could argue, and maybe we can debate this, but the testosterone increase one experiences from being surrounded by females can actually really help you elicit a higher intensity in your workouts.
Yeah.
And I can say that from personal experience. When my fiance trained me once, I remember back in London at Keyser, I'd been plateauing for ages across a lot of my exercises. And then she trained me and I must have improved on everything by a fair few repetitions. A significant improvement just because she was watching me. So with all that said, what would you say when it comes to attire for an ideal exercise environment?
The attire for the trainer or the clients?
I guess for both, really.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I guess first thing to address the attire for the trainer. I think this is a very important consideration, and there are various degrees of what somebody would consider appropriate. But I do think it's very critical how the trainer dresses. And probably the biggest aspect of this is that we want to appear to be a professional person. We want to appear to be, educated and, in a sense, be an authoritative figure. Okay. And we need to address appropriately to be presenting ourselves as a serious, professional, educated person that is, do the respect of that. And you want your clients to respect your knowledge and authority and how you conduct yourself and so forth. So dressing in a professional way is important to convey the proper image to the client, to get that respect and that authority, and most of all, to separate ourselves from all the other knuckleheads out there in the fitness industry that are really a bad example and sort of embarrassing in a lot of ways. So if you think about it, most trainers dress like, dumb jocks or gym rats, or, for lack of a better explanation. But, most trainers will dress in gym clothes, and they'll have, shorts and a sleeveless shirt on or something, or they're wearing, some sort of jogging pants or something, and a they're trying to show off their body or something like that, but they're dressing like kind of an uneducated, unprofessional type of person, and they're conveying this image. And when you're dealing with clients that are typically affluent, well-educated, professional people, no matter what they say, they're typically not going to respect somebody that is dressed really casually and dressed like a jock and dressed in such a way that they're, wearing sleeveless shirts and trying to show off their body and whatnot. So
it's going to make them feel even more insecure if they're around a guy who's particularly muscular and fit, or a woman who's in incredible shape, and really accentuating that figure. That could really make some clients feel uneasy.
Yeah. So I think, we do have to pay attention to how we dress to give that proper presentation and that professional image, and get people to take us seriously and respect what we're doing, and to get them to take the exercise seriously. If you have an environment that's too casual and you have a trainer that's dressed too casually, it will be difficult to get the client to take the program seriously, to take the whole prospect of what they're doing with you seriously, and to respect your authority and your knowledge and expertise. Now, I know that some people get away with this. I know people that dress like in gym clothes when they train their clients, and they are still successful. Okay. And those kind of people typically have such a strong, forceful personality and such a confident, demeanor, that they maybe get around some of those initial problems that I described. And they kind of, in spite of the way they're dressed, they're still successful. They still get their clients to take them seriously and stuff like that. But I would say, generally speaking, on the whole, the more casually you dress, the more problems you're going to have in this regard. So the question becomes now is, how should you dress to appear professional, and so forth? And, Luke Carlson, all the people at Discover Strength, they're dressed in, business attire and long sleeve dress shirts, button down dress shirts, and a tie for the men, and women, dressed in a similar type of approach that's appropriate for a woman to display that same type of image. And that's the presentation they make. And I think, I think even at Gainesville Health and Fitness Center, Joe Cerulli, the people there dressed the same way.
They actually inspired Luke, didn't he? So I know that when Luke experienced
that's
the training,
where he got the inspiration.
That's right.
I know.
Slight comment though, small comment. The way I understand it is they now have branded shirts and ties, like a color scheme or a logo or something like that. Is I believe what Luke told me last. But it's a similar principle. It's like this,
it's a similar principle. So the idea is, whether you go to that level where you're dressed, with a tie and that type of attire, or at the other end, you're dressing maybe in what I would call kind of casual business attire. So it's not like a shirt and tie type of thing, but the way I dress, I've got a pair of sort of business slacks, shoes that are not tennis shoes. I've got kind of business type shoes and dress shoes, and I wear a polo shirt. In the summer, it's a short sleeve polo shirt. In the winter, it's more of like a long sleeve polo shirt. Okay, so it's a little more casual than, say, what Luke was doing with the shirt and tie type of thing, but it's still a professional image. You're not wearing clothes that are too casual. You're not wearing gym shoes or tennis shoes type of thing. You're not wearing training gear. You're dressed in sort of the more casual business, professional type of attire.
That's basically what we've gone for, is similar to you, that type of approach.
Yeah.
And, because I think about our, contemporaries, if you want to call it, physiotherapists, some medical professionals, they're not often not wearing shirts and ties. They're wearing sort of smart casual, as you describe it.
Mhm.
And so I sometimes feel if we want to be associated with them, then that's all we need to do. We don't necessarily have to wear shirts and ties, you know. So, but we're still well differentiated, just wearing that versus wearing like the athletic leisure wear that a lot of our competitors wear.
Yeah. I think the the overall objective is to appear professional, appear as if you're taking this seriously, and that you're dressing in a way to be respected and taken seriously, sort of thing. And also keep in mind anything that we can do to differentiate ourselves from everybody else in the fitness industry, and to break that stereotype of what people think a personal trainer is, or an exercise person is. Doing something to differentiate ourselves immediately in the eyes of the client or the prospective client is going to get them to recognize that this place is different. There's something different going on here. This is not the run-of-your-mill fitness center or gym. This is not the run-of-the-mill trainer. This is something to be taken differently, that this is something that's more serious. And let's face it, what we're doing is extremely important, valuable, serious service. And the benefits of what we offer, are really more medically related. It's not about sports and recreation. It's more, medically related and health related and so forth. So we want to create that image that we're different, that this is serious, that this is professional, that this is an important thing to be taken seriously. And dressing a certain way is the first thing. Your first impression makes an important difference. So when somebody walks in, they immediately know that something different about this place. This is not your typical run-of-the-mill place. And all of that leads to be a competitive advantage, that the more we can differentiate ourselves from the competition or what everybody else is doing, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, Tim, that was amazing. What a great place to wrap this one up. I feel like we've done it. We've ticked all the boxes as it relates to the ideal exercise environment. Do you feel the same?
Yeah. No, I'm pretty happy with the way it went. I think we really did kind of tie it all together with today's sessions and do well with that. So
only took 2.5 hours, probably.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this whole thing is, from our original plan of what we, sort of scheduled that we were going to cover, it just everything changed once we get into a discussion. So that's I'm fine with that, as long as everybody else is getting a lot out of it and enjoying it, and we're covering the things that need to be covered. We can just see where this thing goes.
No, it is. I'm getting great feedback on the series, and I think, I know people are finding it very useful. And Tim, do you want to just let people know how they can reach you if they're interested in your workshops, your mentoring, helping people with, exercise machine modifications and personal training skills and training clients?
Yeah, the best way is probably just go to my business website, which is stronglifetraining.com. And once you get to the website, the phone number is there, the email, the contact page, all that kind of stuff. So you could send an email, you could text me, you could call the number, but all the contact information is there, and you'll be able to reach me through that. And that's probably the simplest. And then
perfect,
we can go from there.
Yeah, sounds great. And for everyone listening, to get free resources as well as this free podcast to help you grow your strength training business, including sales presentations, PDFs on how to get clients and attract great trainers and keep great trainers, financial forecasting, cash flow templates, and lots more, please head over to highintensitybusiness.com/free. Again, that's highintensitybusiness.com/free. And to find this blog post for this great episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com, search episode 387. Until next time, thank you very much for listening. This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a single software platform that enables your trainers to deliver consistent, high-quality workouts, track client progress, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to poor client experiences, inaccurate tracking, and prevents you from growing your business, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal understand your challenge and have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. You can integrate with MindBody, manage a standardized exercise and workout library for your team, track workouts effectively, and produce client reports at the click of a button. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. Starting with Strength Portal is super simple. Number 1, sign up for the best package for your business. Number 2, let Strength Portal take the load off and help onboard your business onto the platform. And number 3, start delivering consistent workout experiences and scale your business to the next level. To help support the podcast, please go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business and sign up now so you can stop feeling frustrated about your business and start to scale your business to its true potential. Go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business.